The UK is starting to come out of lockdown, and it's expected that when hairdressers reopen, they will be hugely in demand. But I've read a few articles online, written by the more woke members of society, who claim that hairdressers are a way of financially exploiting women. The theory goes that the patriarchy enforces that women pay more for their haircuts, so they have less disposable income and are therefore financially inferior to men. Yes, it's one of those theories, the ones where logic and reason play no part. It's at this point that the gender pay gap rears its head. But I'm a straight white guy, so I'm staying the fuck away from it. But I will say the gender pay gap has been debunked many times by female academics. And although it's true that in general, men earn more in the course of their lifetime, generally speaking, men work longer hours. And in a two-parent family, it's usually the mother that takes time off work to care for young children. And in single-parent families where they are entirely reliant on government benefits, the majority are single mothers. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to be sexist or, God forbid, mansplain anything, but I need to cover that before we move on. So, why are females being charged more for haircuts? Well, I have no call to go to the barber anymore, but when I used to get my hair cut, it cost £12. And I'd be in and out of that seat in around 20 minutes. Therefore, pro rata, that's £36 an hour. And barbershops have a much quicker turnaround than hairdressers, because when men go for haircuts, generally they'll ask for what they've already got, but a bit shorter. Whereas ladies tend to spend a lot longer having their hair done. For example, in the days before the lockdown, Mrs. Disgruntled would go to the hairdressers every 3 weeks. Each appointment would take anywhere between 2 and 3 hours, and she'd emerge looking pretty much the same as when she went in. And at the salon she goes to, a basic cut is around £60. So let's say it's 2 hours. 2 hours for £60, or a barber shop where it would be 2 hours for £72. And the only reason that hair salons can charge £50, £60, £100 per haircut is because customers are willing to pay it. Imagine a barber shop trying that. Short back and side, sir. That'll be £75. Get fucked. And I know that for many ladies, going to the hairdresser isn't just about getting the hair done. It's an event, it's a social occasion. That's fine. But ladies, on behalf of all heterosexual men, can I say please stop pretending you're getting your hair done to impress us. We're not that bothered. As long as you're presentable, that'll do. And more to the point, if you're wearing something where we can see the shape of your breasts, we're looking at them anyway. But so far, I've only been talking about male and female. What about if you're a desperate attention seeker? It's widely accepted that there are only two genders. However, I'm a bit more liberal. I'll say there's female, male, and trans female and trans male. For me, that pretty much covers it. I accept there are a tiny number of people who were born into the wrong bodies and need gender reassignment surgery. But I cannot abide these screaming non-binary types. When someone says they identify as non-binary, they're identifying as not being something. Now, I'm not a tree or a kettle or a fucking table. I don't need to tell people that. But to be honest, if you are non-binary, that's absolutely fine. Provided you're not one of these professional victims endlessly crying about how hard your life is. I identify as a transracial, pansexual, single-parent unicorn. You don't know my struggles. That's true. I don't know what you've been through, but then you don't know what I've been through. Just because you live outside of societal norms, it doesn't give you a monopoly on suffering. That's typical, coming from a cisgendered, straight white man. I've said this before. If you judge someone based on their sexuality, their race, or their gender, you're a fucking bigot. Anyway, a video from earlier in the year from BBC Three, featuring this thing here, has re-emerged on the internet. This individual identifies as gender non-binary, but when you get down to the basics, she's a woman who dresses quite androgynously. And there's nothing at all wrong with that. Unless you then go on the internet screaming that you're a victim because hairdressers can't understand you don't fit into the male or female box. Quick test, do you have a vagina? Yes, then you're a woman. She claims that every time she goes to get her haircut, the barber or hairdresser will demand to know what sex she is. I'm calling bullshit on that, Because with gender being in the news so much at the moment, when some non-binary thing wanders into a hairdressing salon, the owner isn't going to ask what sex they are in case they end up all over social media. And also, the non-binary person would doubtlessly then go into a 2-hour monologue about how oppressed they are. She also goes on to complain about the point of this video, that hairdressing is somehow misogynistic, saying that we've all seen the signs. Men's haircuts £4, women's £9. That sounds like a pretty shit hairdressers. Well, you've seen the evidence. And more to the point, if you're non-binary, when you go get your haircut, identify more as a male and get it done cheaper. Or not, as we discovered at the start of this video. Feeling victimised because your hairdresser isn't sure whether or not you've got a cock. Is that the most first world problem you've ever heard? And the people who are a little unusual, shall we say, who are endlessly complaining that society doesn't really understand them. Look around the world. If that's the biggest problem you've got, you're doing okay. But of course they won't do that because the world revolves around them. If you are worried about the cost of going to the hairdressers, I thoroughly recommend going bald. However, what you save in barber fees, you spend on caps.